Hello, everyone. My name is Jordyn Smith, and I am the voice and the astrologer for this YouTube channel, Nonconformist Conscience. Welcome. Today, I'm going to go over your weekly forecast for the week of February 22nd to the 29th. And I am going to do a separate video for the Pisces new moon as per usual. Before I jump into this week's astrology forecast, I wanted to say that if you are a Pisces, it is your birthday special for the next month. You can book on my website for $75 a 95-minute reading with me over Zoom, and I will take a look at your natal chart through the lens of evolutionary astrology, and I will answer any questions that you ask. And that's really just looking at the why of why am I here? What am I trying to actualize? Why do these certain themes keep coming up in my life, or what's going on? Um, I get asked all types of questions whenever I do these readings. So no question is off limits. And I will also go over your solar return if you want, which is the upcoming themes for the next year for you. And again, this will be recorded, and I will send you the recording after we meet. So you have until March 20th to book this, and I can't wait to see you. I will also reiterate that I have been doing these birthday specials for almost a full year now. I started doing them, the first one I started with was Taurus. So after Aries, you'll get your birthday special, your chance to book if that's what you wish. And then after that, I am no longer going to be doing birthday specials. I will do other specials. We have a eclipse coming up in March, two eclipses actually, and I will do an eclipse special then. So I will continue to put out specials. I just won't be doing the birthday specials anymore. And it's been a magical year of getting to connect with you all and learning from you and meeting you all. And I just am really appreciative of it. Um, so there's that. And then the other thing is you can now go onto the JWGAEA.org website and you can sign up for the new class series, which is all about Venus and sexuality. And I will be teaching one of those classes along with quite a few other teachers. And I hope to see you all there. So now, without further ado, let's talk about this week's astrological forecast sans the Pisces new moon. And there's something that I do want to talk about, and I'm going to show it to you on the chart. It's an asteroid that I use, but it's not something I talk about that often because I think that it has this connotation where a lot of people either you lean into it or it can freak people out when we start talking about this. And so before I pull up the chart, I'm going to talk a little bit about this asteroid. The asteroid that I'm referring to is the asteroid Lucifer. And the reason why I want to include it in this week's astrology forecast is one, on the 19th, it's stationed direct at 29 degrees Gemini, and it will re-enter the sign of Cancer next week, just in time for Venus retrograde cycle. But Lucifer as an asteroid is, you know, where we can be influenced by negative energies. Some would call them evil. We live in a plane of existence that is based on polarities. It's binary. So, love, evil, God, evil, day, night, spring, fall, summer, winter. You see it everywhere, male, female, we see the binaries everywhere and how we classify things. But this is a really profound asteroid to work with in someone's natal chart, I will say. And I will put a link below if you want to find out where yours is. I will put that website down below. But I'm going to be talking about it through the transit. But what I will say is it is a very profound asteroid to utilize in your natal chart. It speaks to two dynamics. One, where you can be influenced by more of these heavy negative energies, and also where it can be the bearer of light. And what do I mean by being influenced by these negative energies? Lucifer in someone's chart is really going to say, wherever it is, by house, sign, and aspects, where you can be influenced and deeply impacted on an emotional level. It shows us where we are the most emotionally vulnerable and how it will magnify those emotions. And what we typically see is that this asteroid really starts to come into play in someone's natal chart whenever they are on the precipice of an immense amount of growth. It's like they are at an evolutionary juncture, or they are about to make massive, momentous changes in their life. And, you know, if you are someone who has a spiritual practice, then you are going to understand that there are negative and positive energies that affect us all. And whenever we are evolving and we're growing and we're especially spiritualizing and all of these things, this is the time period where all of a sudden intense emotions, where we are the most emotionally vulnerable, where there's the most tender emotions, can be ignited and magnified because it's trying to influence us to not continue to move forward, to not grow. It's the law of polarity, matter, antimatter, right? We see it everywhere. And all of us have been influenced at some point in time by these energies. It's why shamans do certain work. It's why it's talked about in different theologies, philosophies, cosmologies. It's there. And it's important for us to talk about this, especially right now. I feel very called to talk about this actually. Um, and like I said, what it does in your own natal chart is it will magnify these really tender, emotionally vulnerable places in our lives to try to sway us from doing what it is that we know that we need to do in order to continue to grow and to evolve. And the best way to understand if this is impacting you at any point in time is whenever the emotional dynamics are magnified in such a way that you are starting to feel victimized, or you're becoming stuck in a victimized consciousness, meaning I'm thinking about all the things that are going wrong, or I'm thinking about the injustices that are occurring, but yet I'm not doing anything to change my situation. I'm stuck. In its most darkest form, it will induce a sense of futility, and it can be where people have an immense amount of depression, a loss of hope, a loss of faith. They are stuck in everything else is wrong with the world, and what's the point? Why am I going to continue to go on? And some people end up, you know, unaliving themselves whenever this is really influenced in their charts at different times. I've been seeing this a lot lately with different, whether it be clients or friends in my life right now. And it's because of they have things that are impacting their natal Lucifer, or, you know, transiting Lucifer is really impacting their chart. And then we can see this playing out in the world right now, quite frankly. And I'm not just talking about politics, okay? I'm talking about everything. Um, But the really fascinating dynamic with the asteroid Lucifer is that it can absolutely be the bearer of light. It can show us where and how to continue to move forwards. It can make us aware of these very vulnerable places of where we get trapped in certain ways. And then whenever we become aware of it, we can understand that we're being influenced energetically and we can make a different choice. As you all know, I love to give personal examples. I like humanizing myself because I am a human and I'm fallible and I'm not perfect. And I feel like when we share, it helps people not feel so alone. It helps them feel like they can talk about the things that maybe they're feeling shame or guilt or judgment about. And again, it just makes us feel like we understand I'm not alone. There's other people who experience this. So I have my natal Lucifer is conjunct my North Node in Pisces, and that is ruled. So that's in my 10th house, and that is ruled by my Neptune in the 8th house in Capricorn, which is conjunct my Saturn and my Uranus. It's also conjunct my Sun, even though my Sun is in my 9th house. What I will say is, for me, the most emotionally vulnerable places that have been magnified in my life are whenever I have created one illusion after the other, where I've given ultimate meaning outside of myself. Very Piscean thing. And for me, it's been with authority figures, Neptune and Capricorn, North Node, and Lucifer and Pisces in the 10th house. And whether that be through partners that I've had or just authority figures, especially family members in my life. And my experience was I would become extremely disillusioned when I realized that who I believed someone to be was not who they actually were. And a crisis would be induced and then a massive amount of confusion and a loss of faith, especially in myself and my own authority, would happen. And for quite a few years, especially throughout my early 20s and into my 20s, I had very disillusioning situations that were crisis that were actually they were extremely magnified, where at different points I didn't want to be here anymore. Neptune and Capricorn, I would lose all faith, lose all hope. I would feel like, what is the point? And I would want to check out. And then I would get into escapist tendencies that became magnified, whether it be with drugs or alcohol or whatever. And so you can see how my Neptune, being the ruler of Lucifer and Pisces, really would magnify all of this. And now I'm doing like a Reader's Digest version of this, just hitting the cliff notes. But what it's done for me as it was the bearer of light is it showed me how to take off rose-tinted glasses and to honor the actual reality, the truth of the reality. Neptune and Capricorn, Pisces in the 10th house. Instead of making excuses or only seeing the best, it sharpened my discernment, Pisces. And ultimately, it helped me to find a spiritual practice. And for me, most of that the doorway through that has been those disillusioning crisis situations with authorities, to where I started to learn how to be my own authority. And I found evolutionary astrology and I started having a deeper spiritual practice. And not to say that sometimes things don't come up, they do, but I am now aware of it. And so when things are becoming extremely magnified in my life around these areas, that's how I know this is where this influence is happening. And so I can mitigate it through working with it. And it's just an extremely powerful asteroid to work with. I typically don't pull it up in clients' charts whenever I'm doing a chart reading. Like I'll look at it beforehand, but I don't really show it to them because it can freak them out. It's really interesting. A lot of people don't want to believe that this is something. But the best way to understand if this is being influenced in your life is when you're setting out to do something and you feel like you're in an evolutionary juncture, you're on the precipice of something and you're striving and you're working hard, and all of a sudden you find yourself with these tender emotions magnified, and then you find yourself doing the opposite of what you set out to do. That's how you know that this is happening. So check your natal Lucifer out in your own chart. It's a profound teaching. I'll also post a link to an old Jeffrey Wolf Green um video where he talks about some of this. I just feel like it's really pertinent for what's going on in the world and what we're seeing. So, with that being said, let's talk about this in transit. The collective has the collective unconscious, and that is a Pisces Neptunian dynamic. And so that's also dealing with the collective's emotions. And it's why a lot of us right now, with what's going on in the world, we can feel this heavy energy and we can be experiencing grief, and it might not even be our own, but it's just everywhere. And it's because we're all interconnected. We all feel the energies of each other on some level. For some, it's unconscious. For some, it is conscious. And right now, there's a lot going on in the collective. We have wars, we have political leaders, we have the destruction of natural resources, we have global warming, we have divisiveness, we have classisms, we have inflation, we have all of these different ordeals going on all over, right? Not just where I'm at, but literally everywhere. And it is heavy. And so I wanted to talk about this because I feel like if you've subscribed to this channel, I'm willing to bet that you are okay with diving into this because you're wanting to grow. If this is not your cup of tea, unsubscribe. That's fine. But it's interesting when people don't want to acknowledge like this is a real thing. But it is. And it's because we live in a plane of existence that has polarities. There's love, and then there's evil or negativity. And quite frankly, all of us have it existing in each one of us. And so it's good to become aware of these more like shadow aspects. That way we know how to work with them in a constructive way that perpetuates our own evolutionary growth into compassion and unconditional love. So let me show you this chart and I will annotate it. So Lucifer is at 29 degrees Gemini and square this Neptune and North Node going on here. Lucifer is also ruled by Mercury in Pisces, which is, conjunct the Saturn. So the other dynamic is, Lucifer is square these nodes, with the resolution being this North Node and Neptune's right there. But we also have this South Node in Virgo that it's creating dynamic tension with, and it is ruled by that Mercury in Pisces. So, this is February 22nd's chart. And we've got, the moon and Sag going to oppose this, and it's ruled by this Jupiter here. So let me speak about this a little bit. So what is Lucifer in Gemini for the collective? Well, Lucifer and Gemini is where, on a collective level, there can be a lot of emotional dynamics that become magnified whenever it's dealing with the intake of information. This is also where we can have people who are in the public eye who are duplicitous. They want to appear one way, but behind closed doors, they're very, very different. It's also where lies can be presented as fact or truth. And that Lucifer is ruled by Mercury and Pisces. So what would be the influence of this in a negative way? Why is this going on? Why are we having all of this information being bombarded? Why are we being bombarded with information? Why are lies being viewed as fact? Why is this being magnified? Well, that Mercury facilitating that Lucifer is in Pisces, and it's wanting to keep us in a state of perpetual confusion so that we become disillusioned, and that Mercury is ruled by that South Node. So that way we feel victimized, that we don't have a choice, that there's nothing we can do, that we become apathetic, or that we lose hope and we lose faith through crisis occurring over and over and over and over and over again. It is to keep us in that state of perpetual confusion, essentially, that creates a non-action, a non-growth situation that eventually induces cataclysmic crisis. And here's the thing, is the resolution for this Lucifer is that North Node in Pisces conjunct Neptune. We are meant to start to have discernment, Pisces, around information, around the difference between a fact and an opinion and a truth. And that's also seen with that, Moon and Sag opposing that Lucifer, where we are meant to stay in a state of compassion and to have discernment around what it is that we are going to take in. What information are we going to read? How are we going to express ourselves? How are we going to, what kind of knowledge do we want to empower ourselves with? Is it based in futility, victimization, or is it going to be based and rooted in what's timeless and universal, the actual truth of the situation? So we are meant to dissolve a lot of our thought processes around staying victimized right now. And so for a lot of us, we could be believing lies. And this doesn't even have to deal with what we're seeing globally. This can be just if this is impacting your natal chart, you want to be really discerning around, is what you are thinking, Gemini, is this actually based in reality, Pisces? Or is this based in wanting to stay in a victimized consciousness? Is it based in a place that's going to magnify a sense of inferiority and that you can't do anything, that you're stuck? Are you buying into a lie as fact? And then it's asking for you to throw off beliefs that are not based in reality and to really liberate yourself from this dynamic and to cultivate more discernment around what the actual reality of the situation that you're faced with right now. And then that Mercury, the ruler of the South Node, the ruler of Lucifer, it's wanting to bear light on the actual reality. It's conjunct Saturn, Mercury is, but it's also wanting us to take accountability for the own steps in which we choose to make. What can you do to create improvement that is based on truth in the present moment? It's all of these dynamics are up for grab. And this is really interesting because then on the 23rd, Mars is going to station. It's not going to go direct until, hours later, but it's slowing down in the sky. It's at a standstill. It's going to be ruled by Moon in Capricorn on the 23rd. And that Moon in Capricorn is going to square Venus in Aries, which is ruled by that Mars stationing. So there's an intensification of emotional dynamics that can be highlighted, but it can be this trigger for each and every single one of us to Capricorn, Moon and Cap, take accountability for our own emotional dynamics and how we respond. And then to that square from the moon to Venus is in what we call last quarter square. It's about absolutely going for throwing off the past. These past emotional dynamics of where there was inaction, of where we felt futile, of where we felt a loss of hope, a loss of faith, a loss of courage, a loss of independence, a loss of freedom. And it's really saying the only thing that's keeping you in the way of yourself is yourself. And so there's a need to take accountability. This is mine and this is yours. That's what accountability is. Accountability isn't like taking everything on. It's about understanding and discerning and making a Capricornian correct judgment. This is my part in this. That is yours, or this is how I was conditioned in the past, but I want to be in my own authority, Capricorn. And this is to ultimately Venus and Aries to start to relate to oneself in a different way on an emotional level. So everything that you've been learning and understanding about your own emotional dynamics throughout the Mars retrograde cycle is now wanting you to start implementing it and initiating it in a different way, cultivating these new patterns. You were resolving old stuff. You were having the opportunity to revisit different emotional patterns or different emotional dynamics with others, with yourself. And now it's asking for you to just really stand your ground. How do you want to create a foundation worth standing upon right now as you start to do some more inner work as, Venus goes retrograde on March 1st, which I will talk about next week. I've already written a whole report. It's on my website if you want to go back and look at that. But this is fascinating because this is also on the 23rd, Ceres enters the sign of Pisces. And Ceres is where we can have this instance of losing something, and we are really meant to nurture ourselves in order for us to recover that which was lost, but in a whole new, brand new way. So Ceres and Pisces can be, for some, they've lost their spirituality. They've lost hope. They've lost faith. They've lost compassion. They've lost self-forgiveness. They've lost, you know, anything that deals with any of the zodiac's signs, because Ceres and Pisces is the culmination of the totality of the zodiac. And so it's really asking for us to Neptune, its ruler, conjunct that north node. What ways in which do you want to nurture yourself through your own Piscean pure emotion? What intense emotions are you recovering right now that maybe you had suppressed because it was too painful? You didn't like how it felt. You were taught that it was bad. However, this is looking for you. That Ceres in Pisces is really wanting us to totally nurture ourselves through like the cosmic womb, through facing a void of what once was there is no longer there. But that's really where the medicine is to nurture oneself. And so it's about discerning, where do you need to forgive yourself? Where do you need to forgive others? Where do you need to find compassion? How do you nurture that within yourself? Do you need to forgive yourself? Have you been coming to understand things that maybe you're realizing, I don't really like this about who I am, and I don't want to be this person? Well, it's not about begrudging oneself or shaming oneself. It is truly about nurturing the process of healing. I always say this quote, it's the Maya Angelou quote, when you know better, you do better. And this is that time to really take that and to nurture yourself from the inside out. On the 24th, the moon in Capricorn is going to sextile that North Node and Neptune conjunction in Pisces. And this is really where we can um, have an integration of healing within our own sense of authority. It's where when we do the work of choosing and making a conscious effort to emotionally mature in whatever areas that we need to, that there can be a burst of healing. This can also be a time where if you felt confused or you didn't really know, you could sense that there was more to something than there was. This is a time where you could understand what wasn't necessarily tangible earlier on, and it now becomes tangible. It's like, okay, now I'm understanding. Now I can have an integration into why this occurred, or, totally the why about things. And it's asking for you to continue to self-reflect in order to have this restructuring within consciousness at this time. It's like another layer of that. It's also where we can have a lesson in some of us are not meant to know why things happen. That can come at a later date or it may never come. There are things that have happened in my life that I have racked my brain over. Like, why? Why did that occur? And looked at every minutia area within myself and still could not understand why something happened. And it's because I wasn't meant to know. I'm not meant to know. I'm meant to continue to put one foot in front of the other and to keep going. And so this can be this realization of I might not know, even though I really want to, but that shouldn't be getting in the way of me making a conscious effort to continue to heal and to be on this journey. During this time, Mercury is going to conjunct Saturn on the 24th. It is going to enter a new phase. And so this can really be where we are healing our thinking and how what we think, how we express ourselves really is a mirror of our own inner emotional dynamics within our consciousness. And so this can be where, as we're doing this kind of Capricorn moon stuff and the Saturnian stuff of really having discernment around making correct judgment through self-reflecting, through taking wisdom, that now, if you've been consciously working with Mercury being the ruler of that South Node and you've been, coming into awareness about different ways in which you express yourself or your own thinking that's needing to be purged, this can really start to help as Mercury moves over that Saturn and enters a new phase with this restructuring in your own type of thinking, especially whenever it's rooted in compassion and love and faith. It's not a time for us to lose faith. A lot of us are. I've seen this play out. So many people are feeling futile. They're feeling an immense amount of grief. And so this can also be where we are meant to look at that further and to use that as a catalyst to nurture ourselves and to heal. That it's okay that something that was there is not there anymore. It is clearing room and clearing space. And we are meant to sit kind of in this void, the Piscean void, and to be patient until something comes into our conscious around the new steps that we are meant to take. And this is a week where some of that can start to create more adaptability. It's where we could be like, yeah, I feel very confused. Yes, like I don't know all the answers, but there can be like a crack of light starting to illuminate different dynamics within. And so it's giving us an opportunity to initiate a new cycle of not denying what it is that we need to do, but to start to take little actions to improve, putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And as we do with every step, it opens a clearer and clearer path. All right. And then on the 27th, we will have that Pisces new moon. I will do a whole video on this. That is separate. I want to give it its, you know, the due diligence that it deserves and that it needs. And then the last thing that I want to say is that on the 28th, this is when Venus is going to start stationing. It's slowing down in the sky. We've already been feeling her slowing down in the sky, but she's going to be at this standstill. And it won't be until the 1st that she goes retrograde, but as she is standing still in the sky, this is where anytime a planet is stationing, just like Mars doing this week before it goes direct, which it does on the 24th, but Venus slowing down and appearing to stand still in the sky can really highlight different emotional dynamics, Mars ruling that are coming up that can highlight or planting these seeds of this. There's a choice that's imminent that is going to be coming up, and it's going to be dealing with whatever those dynamics are that get highlighted as she's stationing. And then once she retrogrades, we will be able to have opportunities to resolve these dynamics. But it's like this Venus stationing is going to really just put an exclamation point on this is the meat and the potatoes. If you've been confused or you've been wondering or you've kind of understood, something can be really, really, really illuminated in that moment, especially around anger, courage, independence, freedom, desire, all around emotional dynamics. And it's because it's asking for you to be responsible in the choices that you make. And so it's asking for a pause. It's standing still, to pause, to think about what it is that you need to do before you create that action, that Aries action. To not continue to relive the past. So it's going to take a conscious effort to put a mental stop sign in your head to not react. You know, if this is something that really starts to pack a punch for you. So this is your weekly forecast. Like I said, I will be doing a separate video for the Pisces new moon. What I will say is that, you know, as the weeks move on and we are in Venus retrograde cycle, I will be talking more and more. If you haven't read the article that I wrote, it's on my website. You can go on there and read about it. And we are in really interesting times. Next week, Lucifer is going to enter into the sign of Cancer. It's going to be going over these areas that Mars retrograde went over. It's going to be testing us in our most emotionally vulnerable places. And so really understanding this, understanding that if something becomes super intense and magnified and you know you're on the precipice of growth or you're at this crossroads, there is a choice. We always have a choice, and we need to lead with love and we need to lead with compassion. That doesn't mean abandoning self during this, but it means grounding within that natural principle. And that way, you can make a correct judgment call on how to move forwards. It can help you see clearer. Stop, pause if you need to. It's okay. And I will go over that more next week. So I will see you all. I'm going to be, you know, doing these, pre-recording these videos for next week. So you will get them trickling in throughout the week. And I can't wait to see more of you Pisces in my Zoom room. And, you know, once we get into March, be on the lookout for the eclipse special. Excuse me. Be on the lookout for the eclipse special. And if you haven't signed up or subscribed on my website, if you go read one of the articles, it'll pop up for you to subscribe, put your email in there, and that way you get updates before I do them on here. So I hope you all have a beautiful week, and I will see you all soon.